Hey there, I'm Kevin Downey, and I run an agency called Kevin M. Downey, where we help B2B companies with their sales and marketing efforts. You can visit our website at kevinmdowney.com. Okay, today's topic: why should you consider remote reps from Latin America for your sales or business development roles? Now, when I say sales there, I don't mean that for every sales position, but what we would call sales development or business development, right? Those roles specifically, which is sometimes referred to as doing cold outreach to generate, identify decision maker, generate leads and appointments for sales, and or deal with inbound leads, qualify those leads and move them to calls with sales. So those kinds of activities. Why should you consider reps from Latin America? So when we work with companies doing recruiting, and we recruit, all sales positions, whether it's local in-house, territorial sales, recruiting reps that can be remote for sales, part of what we are working with companies is trying to optimize the ROI on their sales team. And so as business development has evolved and it has gotten harder, and you could argue this was happening, as a kind of pattern well before COVID, but COVID exacerbated it. The ability to get a hold of decision makers is harder. It's harder to get, decision makers on the phone. You don't even have, receptionist type individuals at companies a lot of times anymore. It's all phone trees. A lot of the decision makers you're trying to get after are not in the physical location of the company, the main headquarters. They're remote, they're working from home. So it's tricky. It's a lot harder to get a hold of decision makers. So one of the challenges that is created for companies who have sales teams who are doing their own prospecting or their own cold outreach is ROI on those sales teams. So because sales reps in the United States, whether they're territorial or in-house in your office or they're remote, are not inexpensive. I mean, sales reps in the United States command a pretty decent salary, and of course you got commission, bonus commission on top of that in most cases. They're not inexpensive, so their guarantee is quite a bit of money, and in some cases a lot of money. It is very difficult now with the connection rates that we're seeing to justify sales teams that are command higher salaries sitting there and doing cold outreach to build their customer base for 6 months to a year or longer. That we need to be doing a combination of high volume email marketing and dedicated cold outreach with lesser expensive representatives to help find them decision makers, drive inbound leads and appointments for them so that their schedules are more filled with prospects and appointments. All right. So, reps, business development reps in the United States are still going to command a pretty high salary. So given the connection rates, especially for some of our clients and in targeting some industries, it makes more sense to go down to Latin America to find source reps that are much less expensive, have sales or business development experience, are individuals that are willing to stay in a sales or business development role or, doing cold outreach constantly for the long haul, that you can train in that role and keep in that role for the long term and a lot less expensively. And again, all with the goal of optimizing the ROI on your sales team, your sales reps in the United States. Where do these individuals come from? What's their background or experience? Because a lot of company owners in particular, but even CSOs, CMOs, business development directors and VPs that we deal with aren't familiar with the fact of just how talented the pool is in Latin America. And we're talking from Mexico all the way to Argentina, including Central America, Dominican Republic. We get a lot of good ones to some degree. We still do some recruiting in South Africa and Southeast Asia, but most of which I'm talking about is Latin America. We have more Americans now that have moved down to Mexico and residing there, working remote for companies than we have ever had before. A few years ago, 4 years ago, when we started recruiting internationally, we would get one American to come through a month that was located internationally. Now we get almost one a day. It's amazing, just the number of them, especially in Mexico in particular, that have gone down there and live permanently, right? So the talent level there, very strong, a lot of sales and business development experience. And then the kids now from, I would say, upper middle class and upper class families in Mexico, Central America, and even South America who have come to the United States for college and even stayed and worked here for a while. And then they go back to where, originally where they're from for the lower cost of living. and they have extraordinarily high English speaking skills. They're very well versed in business acumen in business slang in the United States. So they're very comfortable and again ready to do that kind of work. Some of whom have a lot of experience in it already, right? So when you're talking about down in Latin America, you've got some amazing talent, very experienced, and salaries in the can be as low as 10,000 a year base, but typically 15 to 20,000 is normal. Kind of the high that we deal with is typically about 25, and then that might be plus bonus commission opportunities. But typically in Latin America, the bonus commission does not raise the pay by percentage as much as we do with reps in the United States. So many times with reps in the United States, it can double their income. It might even be more than that, right? In Latin America, we don't typically see that. We're typically seeing that you're paying roughly 65, 75% or even more, 80% of what their goal OTE income is in base, simply because you can. I mean, if you pay someone 15,000, whatever that works out to a month, I want to say 1,200 a month USD, and you can get them to the point where they're making as much money as they can make or more than any other job they can find in their home country, you've got a lot of leverage. They want to keep that job, right? So they're not out there shopping for a new job and a higher salary all the time. They just want to reach and be successful and keep the position. And then, of course, they want to make more in bonus commissions, but you might only have to raise that income from 1,200 a month to, say, 1,500 or 1,800 or something like that. So the great thing about Latin America is we have extraordinary talent, very low base compensation, and the longevity of the reps is so great. And that's really the downside for reps in America when you can't pay a high enough base. And again, sales reps command a really high base in the US, but even for business development roles, the challenge we run into is you can find the talent, especially the ones that want to work remote, because everybody wants to work remote, and you can give them 40, 50, 60,000. But the problem with so many of them is they're always shopping for another job with a higher base because they have so much pressure on them to make more money. And so that's why we see so much turnover in those positions with US reps, and they're always bouncing around and constantly moving. They just got to look for that next highest base salary because they need to survive. And so that's the other big benefit of Latin America is you get those reps, you can keep them for the long haul. So anyway, so it's much easier to keep them for the long haul. Anyway, that's why you should consider remote reps from Latin America for your business development roles, sales development roles, that kind of thing. And again, we can help you with that. Obviously, we do recruiting and training of reps for the clients in the United States, reps in the US, local in office, territorial, remote, but then of course, remote Latin American reps as well. Okay, so reach out to us if you have any questions. We'd love to help. KevinMDowney.com. Thanks so much for being here. Best of luck in business, and we'll talk to you soon. Thanks.